Across the world, criminal justice systems grapple with overcrowded prisons, high recidivism rates, and staggering social costs. In many countries, the so-called prison pipeline continues to funnel individuals, often from disadvantaged backgrounds, into incarceration at alarming rates. This term refers to the systemic process through which poverty, inadequate education, racial inequality, and lack of opportunity intersect to create a path that leads from childhood disadvantage to adult imprisonment. For decades, the dominant response to crime has been punishment. But if we want to break this cycle, we must invest in prevention, rehabilitation, and community support rather than relying solely on incarceration. The prison pipeline begins long before a crime is committed. For many, it starts in underfunded schools, where overcrowded classrooms, lack of resources, and underpaid teachers limit the quality of education. Children from low-income neighborhoods often face additional challenges: food insecurity, unstable housing, exposure to violence, and limited access to healthcare. These factors not only affect academic performance, but also increase the likelihood of behavioral issues. Too often, schools respond to these issues with harsh disciplinary measures, including suspensions and expulsions, rather than addressing the underlying causes. This school-to-prison pipeline removes children from the classroom, isolates them, and increases their risk of future involvement with the justice system. Economic inequality is a powerful driver of incarceration rates. When communities lack job opportunities, affordable housing, and accessible health care, desperation can push people toward activities that are criminalized. Moreover, systemic discrimination in employment and housing disproportionately affects minority communities, creating a cycle where poverty and criminal records reinforce each other. Once someone has been incarcerated, they face enormous barriers to reentry: stigma, restricted employment options, loss of voting rights, and ineligibility for public assistance, making it even harder to rebuild their lives. The traditional model of justice in many societies emphasizes deterrence through punishment. However, decades of research show that harsh sentencing alone does little to prevent crime. Long prison terms often fail to rehabilitate individuals, and the prison environment can exacerbate criminal behavior rather than reduce it. This punitive approach also places an enormous financial burden on taxpayers, with billions spent annually on incarceration instead of addressing the root causes of crime. A prevention-focused approach offers a more humane, cost-effective, and sustainable alternative. Investing in early childhood education, for example, has been shown to reduce future crime rates significantly. Quality early learning programs improve school readiness, boost academic achievement, and foster social skills that help children navigate life's challenges without turning to crime. Access to mental health care and substance use treatment is another critical component. Many individuals in prison struggle with untreated mental illness or addiction, conditions that are more effectively managed through healthcare, not incarceration. Expanding community-based treatment programs can reduce arrests, improve public safety, and lower long-term costs. Job training and employment opportunities are equally important. Stable employment is one of the strongest predictors of successful reentry after prison, yet many formerly incarcerated individuals are locked out of the labor market. Removing unnecessary barriers to employment, providing vocational training, and offering incentives for businesses to hire returning citizens can break the cycle of recidivism. Restorative justice practices also offer promising results. These programs focus on repairing harm by bringing together offenders, victims, and community members in dialogue. Rather than simply punishing, restorative justice seeks accountability, understanding, and healing. It can reduce reoffending rates, increase victim satisfaction, and strengthen community bonds. The financial argument for prevention over punishment is compelling. Incarceration is expensive, often costing more per person per year than a college education. Redirecting even a fraction of these funds into education, healthcare, housing, and job creation can yield long-term savings and better outcomes for society. Countries that have adopted prevention-centered approaches, such as Norway, have seen lower incarceration rates, reduced recidivism, and stronger communities as a result. Critics of this approach sometimes argue that it is soft on crime, but this misunderstands the goal. Prevention is not about ignoring wrongdoing. It's about addressing the conditions that make crime more likely to occur in the first place. By tackling the root causes, poverty, inequality, lack of opportunity, we reduce the need for punitive measures and create safer communities for everyone. Breaking the prison pipeline will require a shift in societal priorities. It demands that we see people not as disposable, but as capable of change. It requires policies that treat crime as a social problem with social solutions rather than simply a legal problem to be punished. The challenge is significant, but the potential rewards, lower crime, stronger families, healthier communities, are worth the effort. We have a choice. Continue pouring resources into a system that perpetuates cycles of incarceration, or invest in prevention strategies that break those cycles for good. The future of justice must be built on the belief that every individual deserves the opportunity to live free from the barriers that drive them toward prison in the first place. Prevention is not just the more compassionate choice. It is the smarter, safer, and more sustainable path forward.